Here is every book I read in 2026. I read 13 books this year. So in January, I read 2 books. The first book I read, technically I didn't read because I listened to it as an audiobook, was Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. After reading it, I gave the book 3 stars. This is the second book of her series, where the first one was When in Rome. It had Annie and Will for the characters that are falling in love. It felt like it moved a little too fast, and I didn't feel as I enjoyed it as much as the first book. I didn't really have time to process how I felt about the two. But I honestly can't really remember the book that well because that was a year ago. Also, it wasn't that memorable for me. The next book I finished was Beartown. This is by Fredrik Backman. This I included in my 2024 reading recap because I was in the middle of it during that. The story was a bit confusing for me because it was constantly looking at different characters and there was different little stories in the story. But I love the feeling that was provided with this snowy small town that's obsessed with hockey. The hockey assignment I definitely enjoyed reading and kept my attention. There was a lot of parts where I felt multiple different emotions throughout the book, and I would recommend. And I gave it 3.75 stars out of 5 stars. Now moving on to February, I read 1 book, which again was an audiobook. I was really into audiobooks at the beginning of the year. Since then I haven't really listened to audiobooks. The audiobook was The House of My Mother by Sherry Frank. Since this book is a memoir, the audiobook was read by her, which was really cool. I gave it 5 stars because it just felt so honest and so intimate reading it. It's a memoir of Sherry Frank, who is the daughter of Ruby Frank, who had the YouTube channel 8 Passengers. I remember growing up and the 8 Passengers videos would pop up on my YouTube. And when I was little, I would click on like really clickbaity titles. And then in the past few years, a lot of different things came out about the family and what actually went on. And there was like different clips circulating. And it was nice to hear the actual story from Sherry, who actually lived through it. The book is very emotional and was really hard to get through some parts because of just how intense it was. And it definitely took a lot of courage for Sherry to share all of this. It was very personal. The way she tells her story is so powerful, and I would definitely recommend. In March, I didn't read any books. In April, I ended up reading 1 book, and that was The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. After reading it, I gave it 4 stars. I've been really liking Frida McFadden. I love The Housemaid, and I recently saw that in theaters, so I've been thinking about her. Frida, she just knows how to write amazing mystery thriller books. The story includes dual point of view, and each point of view is in a different time. It follows Tom, who is in the past, and then Sydney's point of view, which is in the present. With Sydney, it focuses on her friend Bonnie, who life suddenly gets taken, and she's trying to get answers and figure out who did it and what actually happened. And then Tom's storyline is about a different murder that happened in the past, and you're kind of trying to figure out how these 2 different storylines are connected. I was not able to guess anything that happened in the story. Everything kept surprising me, and the ending I did not see coming. The one flaw with this story is when we're in Tom's POV, there was some parts of things he was saying that was like really cringy to me, and it's kind of like why are you talking like this? I couldn't handle it. But besides that, I really like the story. Then in May, I didn't read any books in May. Then in June, I read a book, which was a novella, and that was Killjoy by Holly Jackson. After reading this, I gave it 3 stars. This is a prequel to Holly Jackson's Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. So it follows Pip before the events that happened in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and it shows you how she kind of got into murders and mysteries and wanting to solve things. It's about a murder mystery party that she has with her friends. It was really easy to read, especially since it's only like 100 pages long. It was cute and interesting, but there wasn't really much like high stakes to it since it was just a game, a party. Nothing really stood out to me, but I still love Holly Jackson. Then in July, I read one book, and that was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Afterwards, I gave this book 5 stars. I devoured this book. I love it so much. I only read one other book by her, which was Carrie Soto is Back, and I absolutely loved that book too. So I think I like her writing, and in 2026, I should probably read more of her books. This had different timelines of the past and present, and the main character that we kind of really follow is Nina. The present timeline is a party that she's throwing, and the past timeline is her growing up with her siblings and her mom, and the drama of her relationship with her father, because it doesn't really exist. I felt so bad for her and her sibling and her mother for all they had to go through with her father, because her father is absolute trash. It was inspirational to see how much she was able to grow from her childhood to the present, and in this one night at the party, how eye-opening the events that happened were to really find herself and what she wants in her life. I wish the best for all the characters in this book. The way it's written is so beautiful, and I absolutely adore this book, and you should read. In August, I ended up reading 3 books, which that's pretty good. That's pretty good for me. The first book I read was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I heard so many people talk about this book, especially, on Book Talk and with Haley Fan. I feel like she brought a lot of attention to this book. After reading it, I gave it 3.5 stars. Wes, I wish he was real. I need him in my life. He's definitely my fictional book crush. I think that's a thing. This is a fake dating story between Liz and Wes. They fake date so Liz can get the attention of her crush Michael. But everything that happened in the story, Liz was so oblivious to it all, especially once it came to Wes, which led me to get frustrated with her character and parts of the story because it was so obvious, but if she saw it, then there wouldn't be a story. But after all, she's just a hopeless romantic. She's just a girl, so it makes sense of how she was acting and how she didn't see things that were right in front of her. Reading this, I was kicking my feet, I was giggling. If you want a cutesy little rom-com type book, definitely read. The next book, this month I was reading TikTok, book talk type books, and so I read Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver, but I did give it 3.5 stars. It is absolutely insane and unhinged. This story is about 2 serial killers falling in love. But you root for these serial killers because they only kill bad people like Dexter. This story follows them having a game where they try to see who can kill this bad guy first. There was a lot of smut, Wattpad type writing in here, which I didn't enjoy reading. I was reading it and I looked like this. I was like, I couldn't believe what I was reading. That part kind of made me hate the book. Definitely look at the trigger warnings and proceed with caution reading this book. I've yet to decide if I want to continue reading this series because there's other books. Because I liked it, but I didn't, and I have really mixed feelings about this. Then the last book this month, you've probably heard of it, and that's Shatter Me by Turi Mafi. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I gave this book 3 stars. It's a really popular dystopian series. It's about this girl, Juliet, who has lethal touch and she's locked away. But she ends up getting taken into this little community society. Finds out that this isn't actually a great community and she kind of has to fight and escape. At the beginning I was really intrigued, but once she got into the weird community, it kind of lost me. I enjoyed it, but just lacking something for me. So this is also a series that I haven't decided if I want to continue reading it. Then in September, I ended up reading 2 books. The first book was The Glass Girl by Kathleen Glassclow. I love Kathleen Glassclow's books so much. I've read her other 3 popular books, and all her stories are absolutely emotionally draining. She decides to pick such sad and heartbreaking storylines to follow, and the characters are always going through so much. This follows 15-year-old Bella, who has a lot of stress and grief in her life, and to overcome that, she leans to drinking. Eventually, her mom finds out about it, and once she gets sent to rehab, the story follows her trying to overcome her drinking addiction and become a better person and actually find who she is and who she wants to be. And I think it's great how it wasn't all unicorns and rainbows. Like, it wasn't she went to rehab, everything was better. It was actually realistic of how people try to quit addiction. Once you've overcome it once, doesn't mean it's all just gonna be okay from there. Then the second book I read in September was The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabriella Zevin. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. The story was very cozy and heartfelt. It follows Fikry, who is a widowed bookstore owner, and kind of has that grumpy man persona. But then one night, a toddler appears in his bookstore, and he ends up deciding to take care of this kid and raise her. It's so sweet how he ends up loving this little girl and how he becomes a father to her. No one's expected him to open up like this, and his character definitely takes a shift as he stops being this grumpy, closed-off guy and starts letting himself be more open. It's not all sweet during the story, which adds layers and denseness. I love the writing of it, and I think I want to read another book by her. But apparently I read another book this month. I ended up reading Hello Stranger by Catherine Center, and I gave this 5 stars. The romance, this plot, the story, how it moved, I just couldn't get enough of this book. I binge read this. It follows Sadie, who paints portraits, and she ends up being a finalist for this competition that's very well known and appreciated in the portrait world. Before she's able to start working on her portrait, she has to get emergency brain surgery, and from this surgery she ends up developing a side effect afterwards called face blindness, where she's not able to see anyone's faces, which is very crucial for her to be able to paint a portrait. During her trying to navigate through this face blindness, she ends up meeting this guy and starts slowly falling for him even though she can't see his face. There are so many things I want to mention, but it will spoil it. You just have to trust me that the book is really good. In October, I didn't read any books, but in November I read a book. I read Lynn Painter's new book, Fake Skating. I gave the story 3.5 stars. It's a romance book between Alec and Danny, who were childhood best friends, but they had a falling out, and then under circumstances they end up having to fake date, and they slowly start becoming friends again, which then leads them to kind of feeling more than just friends. It takes place in this cute, snowy hockey town, kind of like in Beartown. And Alec, he is a hockey player, so hockey is a main subject of this story. I love Danny's character, but Alec, I kind of didn't like him. Even though online I saw a lot of people liked him, there was just something about his teenage jock, his attitude, some of the things he would say that just kind of icked me out. And he sort of has like anger issues, I would say. Besides that, I do like the relationship and the bond they create throughout the story. If you want a wintry rom-com, then this is a good option to read. And that was the last book I actually ended up reading this year. During December, I started reading The Last Flight by Julie Clark. It's 2026 and I didn't finish it. I'm like over halfway through the book. It goes through different perspectives of Claire and Ava. They both have different situations in their lives that they want to escape, and out of nowhere, they're both at the airport and they meet each other and they decide out on a whim to switch places with each other. But as Claire goes back to Ava's home, she starts realizing that Ava wasn't telling the truth and there might have been more to why she was wanting to leave. But I'm really enjoying it and it's really fascinating. I'm excited to finish reading it. So that was every book I read in 2025. This was a pretty good reading year since I gave a lot of books 5 stars. I loved Hello Stranger. I loved The Glass Girl. I loved Malibu Rising. And I loved The House of My Mother. So if you take anything from this video, you should read one of those 4 books. I'm excited to dive into some new genres and books in 2026. Well, Happy New Year, guys, and that's all I gotta say. Bye!